bit about his experience and service in Iraq. And he'll also he's brought some photographs to show you as well. And he will take questions at the end. While you're sitting, please sit in proper listening positions. Let me see everyone in a listening position. Give Noah your best attention and your best behavior and respect.
Thank you. So this is second, third, and fourth grade, right?
Yes.
Raise your hand if you're in second grade. And how about third grade? And fourth grade? Those are good grades to be in. So as Gary said, I'm Noah Segal. I'm a Iraq War veteran. I was in the Army and I deployed to Iraq twice. And I thought it'd be easier, instead of just telling you some stories, I brought some photos from both of my deployments to show you and kind of help illustrate some stories. So starting off, this is actually in Kuwait, where if you go to Iraq or somewhere in the Middle East for the military, you usually go to Kuwait first, and it's just a big desert pretty much. But this is my first unit, so all a pretty small group of soldiers, and I was with them for 2 years, and a little over 1 year of that was on our deployment in Iraq. This is a picture of the base that I lived on for 14 months, and that was taken from a helicopter. Got to take a helicopter ride around the base, and it's nothing fancy. There's a lot of sand, a lot of dust, but that's, wherever you are in the Army or in the military, you kind of have to make it your home. So that's what we did. This is, I know that's kind of hard to see, but that's because it's a dust storm or a sandstorm in southern Iraq and Kuwait. There's a lot of sand, not a lot of vegetation. So when after the rainy season's over and the winds are blowing, if there's not a lot of plants to catch the sand, it blows all over the place. So this is, sometimes the sky turns orange or turns white or turns black, but you really can't do anything when there's a sandstorm going on. So sometimes, should I just take questions at the end? Or?
Yeah.
Okay. Hold that up. And that's something that whether you're with the U.S. military or whether you're a native Iraqi who lives there or anybody, everybody has to deal with that. So that's just part of being in the desert. That's a camel spider. I don't know if you've seen any pretty big spiders. It's kind of gross, but they grow to, that one's only about a teenager. Some of them, they grow to be about that big, and they're pretty. They kind of look like aliens. They don't really look like they're from the planet Earth, but something that you kind of have to watch out for when you're in the desert. But that one we caught that one before he got us. Next one, please. This might be hard to see, but this is another shot from a helicopter. Another interesting thing about being deployed in Iraq or anywhere in the Middle East really is that there's a lot of history, a lot of very old history there. And what this is it's a 5,000-year-old temple called the Great Ziggurat of Ur. There's an ancient city that's no longer a city, but it happened to be right next to, right outside of our base in southern Iraq, so we actually got to take a tour. There was a local man who spoke pretty good English and knew everything about the ziggurat. And there's also some royal tombs and ruins around there, and some old temples. And 5,000 years ago, it was a bustling city, but now it's kind of still there. So it's doing pretty well. Next slide, please. This is right next to the Great Ziggurat. This is actually the house that Abraham grew up in. At least that's what we were all told. It's been reconstructed a little bit, so it looks pretty good. You can see there's no roof. I think it was 17 rooms, so it's a pretty big house. And you could walk inside the rooms and underneath archways and on top of the top of the walls where the roof would have been. So it's pretty amazing. It's one of the things that myself and some other people were lucky enough to be able to do while we're there. You're not doing, whether you're fighting or you're working all day, all night, 7 days a week. Sometimes you get to take a little break and see something that's part of history. Next slide, please. And we still get to enjoy and celebrate the holidays as much as we can. And people in my unit were Christian and Jewish, so we got a menorah and we had a little Christmas tree and tried to do our best to remind ourselves of home. And we're also lucky enough to get a lot of packages in the mail from people back in the U.S. and that really makes a huge difference when you're gone for a long time away from your friends and family. It makes it a lot easier. That's just one more picture of my right before we left, so up there. And as a small group of people, but I spend a lot of time every day with people that you work with in the military. You form very close bonds, so I still stay in touch with almost everybody in the picture. My second deployment to Iraq, the first time I was in the south, which is just barren desert. The second time I was in the north and in a couple different places, but the first couple I'll just kind of show some vehicles when soldiers go out on the road, and sometimes it might be dangerous areas. At least in the last few years, they use armored vehicles like these. These are called MRAPs. So this is just a group of soldiers getting ready to load up in their vehicles before they go out on the road. And that's just a better view. There are still some trees, even though it's the desert, so it's not all bad. Next one, please. And most of the time on my second deployment, I was in the farthest north you can go in Iraq, right next to Turkey. We could see Turkey right across the river. We could have thrown a baseball in Turkey. And it's a lot different up there in terms of people, in terms of land. It's not really desert. It's not desert at all. There are mountains, there's grass, there are trees. It's really a beautiful country. And this was actually looking over into Turkey, and we could see some snow on the mountains in the distance. So it's a little bit of a nice change from the first time, just being around sand for as far as I can see. This is the people in the northern part of Iraq are Kurds. They're Kurdish, which is a different ethnicity from the Arabs and most of the rest of the part of the country. So they speak a different language. They're mostly Muslim, but there are also some Christians, some Yazidis. There used to be some Jews there, not so much anymore. But actually, interestingly, the Kurds identify a lot with Israel, with Israelis, because like Israel, there are people who really don't have their own country, and I think they kind of admire Israelis for having their own country, and they like to do the same thing for themselves. But this is at a Kurdish wedding we got to go to, which was really, really fun. It's pretty much just a lot of people dancing and having fun, and then the bride and groom, they probably have the worst time because they have to stand there for about 4 hours while every single person takes a picture with them. So it's kind of tough, but pretty interesting to see some of the local culture.